What comes to mind when you find someone sentenced to prison for murder? Maybe he is not as bad as you think, or he is. But we all want to hear how it all happened before we judge. This is Shayi, a young, handsome gentleman who found himself at the mercy of the law 6 months later. Shayi was a happily married man to the love of his life, Remy. Shayi is the marketing manager of a construction firm, and it was going to be a wonderful evening party for the company's newest client. Remy can't afford to miss it. At the party event, Shayi and his beautiful wife were walking down the stairs when Remy came across 2 guys she was familiar with. She knew these guys were stalking her everywhere she goes and had to tell her husband, but Shayi thinks it's a coincidence. This shouldn't ruin the party, though. Remy wanted to use the restroom when Dennis stopped her. She wasn't comfortable any longer and had to tell him that she's married, but the dude doesn't care. Just then, Shayi came to her rescue. Although the event was strictly by invitation and Dennis doesn't seem to be one of the invited guests, Shayi then asked the security guard to escort him out. It got so extreme that Dennis and his friend Emika had to track the couple down to their apartment after the party. Emika wasn't cool with what he was about to do, but he had no choice here. The question is, what is Dennis up to now? That night, Remy went to the kitchen to get water when she saw 2 strange men in the living room. Shayi rushed to check what was going on when he was hit severely by Emeka. These guys tied Shayi and her unconscious husband up until he gained consciousness. He wanted to know what they wanted. They could have all the money they want, but Dennis is becoming more unreasonable. Emeka knew what his friend was about to do and wanted to stop him, but Dennis wants Shayi to pay for humiliating him in public. He then dragged her to the bedroom and asked Emeka to bring in Shayi to watch him sleep with his wife. How cruel can this be? Horrible memories like this shall forever linger in the heart of this couple, till death part them away. And to make matters worse, Dennis threatened to end their lives if they decide to involve the police or anyone. Shayi couldn't look at his wife and how she has been brutalized. He needs to call the police or even notify their relatives, but Remy wouldn't want him to do such after the threats Dennis pulled. This was a very tough time for the couple, but first they underwent a series of tests for possible STDs. The couples were back from the clinic, and Remy has been silent since the horrible incident. Shayi knows now is the time she needs him the most. He thinks they should still report to the police. But Remy wants him to know that this is Nigeria, when the bad guys walk away freely and the victims look helpless, like there is no law. Remy happens to be traumatized the most as it turned into nightmares. He suggests seeing a therapist, but she wouldn't want to. She'd rather bear her pains alone. It's weeks now, and Remy just wants to be isolated. She wasn't ready to mingle even when Shayi wanted them to go attend a client's birthday. This hasn't been easy for Shayi also, even at his place of work, but he tried as much as possible to gather his broken pieces together. Remy wasn't really helping matters here, as she denies her husband for sex also after many weeks. Yes, we can understand that things haven't been easy for her too, but has she thought of losing her husband in the arms of another woman in the process? Why doesn't she want someone else to help her? A good therapist will be just fine. The therapist was also finding it difficult putting them together. Perhaps it's their first time in a therapy session, but to be honest, most couples wouldn't come this far to heal, but rather, they break away. This time, Remy thinks that they are drifting apart. The success of every home lies within every woman to keep. Now the therapy session looks more easier as the couples were able to fix things together. But from the session, Shayi seems to be the one hurt the most, even though Remy was the victim. He felt his ego bruised when he was unable to protect her, after all the promises made to her. Now, you would agree with me that love only isn't what keeps a marriage, but forgiveness, temperance, commitment, communication, and others. The couples were back on track again when they ran into these horrible dudes again. Dennis never felt remorseful over everything he did to them, but rather, he made mockery of them. Remy's day was already ruined. Her husband tried talking to her, but she indirectly evoked his sleeping ego. Shay needs to act fast to prove to his wife that he is still the man that she married, but what is he up to this time? He traced Dennis and his friend to their home, and with the gun he bought from a dealer for his mission. But will he kill them? Dennis still underrated the guy with the gun due to the first impression Shay displayed. Dennis was right, because he still didn't have the balls with the gun in his hands. Dennis rushed him and met his unfortunate end. Shay never saw this coming. He only wanted to threaten the guys, but now has been reported as a murderer. Remy woke up to find her husband not by her side as usual. She called his colleague at work to know if he resumed work very early, but he wasn't there. Shay was already in the police cell and was given the opportunity to call his wife. She rushed down to the police station to find out what had happened. Shay asked her to get the best lawyer that they could afford because things were about to change. Remy, together with her best friend, Sarah, had to meet one of the best lawyers in town. After much persistence, Barrister Ocon decided to take up the case. Barrister Ocon met with Shay, and they needed to get to work, even though it wasn't going to be an easy task. Remy also has been working tirelessly with her husband's case. Sarah couldn't put her friend together any longer that she had to tell Remy's mother. Her mom felt for her child and thought she could have been confined to her. It was the first day in court. Shay pleaded not guilty and was also denied bail. The court adjourned the cases to commence proceedings after some weeks. Days later, Barrister Ocon called Remy to tell her that someone was willing to testify against the deceased if only they could drop all charges against him as an accomplice. Remy wouldn't agree, but the barrister suggested that a plea bargain is the best option to reduce Shay's prison sentence. It was the final day in court, and after the plea deal was accepted, Shay was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment. How wrong can this go? Remy came to see her husband on the first visiting week, but will she continue this for the next 15 years? Only time shall tell. Now it's been over a year, and she has been thinking lately, after many pieces of advice from everywhere, especially her mother, to move on with her life. She wants to have a private time with her husband in prison for the sake of having a child, but Shay wouldn't accept sleeping with his wife in prison. From 1 year to 5 years, and his wife still remained faithful, Shay now faced brutality for inmates, and it was beginning to affect him psychologically. He now sees his wife as a pest, and as a matter of fact, he also wants his wife to move on with her life and never come back. What then happens to the memories of how they first met at the bar? The vows that he was going to love her and protect her for as long as he draws breath? At least, this should be the breaking point of every woman, no matter how diligent she can be. But will she give up? Sarah thinks that Shay is right. Having a home is the dream of every woman, and she doesn't see Shay in the picture any longer because she also wasn't getting younger. Sarah even arranged a date for her friend with a gentleman who was everything like Shay, as she tried her best to let go of her husband who was facing judgment, all because he wanted to protect her. But she couldn't do it. She could share in his pain on the other side of life. How many women could exhibit such care and compassion? She insisted on seeing Shay. There must be a way out. Yes, life could spring up in its challenging ways, but it's our choice to choose how we deal with our challenges. All she wanted was to make babies. Emeka, on the flip side, has been feeling guilty of his past. He came to ask for her forgiveness together with his wife. Remy was amazed how women end up with such cold-hearted men, although she forgave him. Finally, after many years, Remy had a son, but the question is to whom, after all the fighting spirit she put up? Lo and behold, it was for Shay. They finally made love in the prison, and Shay's sentencing was reduced for good behavior among other inmates. Remy was indeed a woman of virtue. What are your thoughts? Comment below. Thanks for watching. Please comment your thoughts and also like and share this video for more super amazing videos that we are bringing to you. And if you're watching from our YouTube channel, you can also subscribe and turn on your notification for more. Thank you.